Hi, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We had a little logistical snafu, but we're here now. For all of you online, if you have questions for our speakers, please enter them into the Woodruff platform, and I'll be reading those. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Daniel Anglin of ALSAC St. Jude Children's Research Hospital for a wonderful presentation, I'm sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and making the commute over here between buildings. We're going to just start with the intros.
Let's do it.
There you go.
So I'm up first. So hello, everyone. My name is Phillip Woodruff. I am one of our IT advisors at ALSAC. I basically cover our data quality, risk management, which we also call oversight operations, and our emerging IT governance programs. A couple of random things about me. They're just scattered across the screen. Former DJ, so if you see me start to ramble on, that is the result of that. I like to create I can't talk. I like to think of myself as a creative solutionist. So it's always about creating the solution, figuring out what the end result is going to be for the business owner. And then I'm an avid sports fan. We've got a couple sports leagues in Memphis that I play. And then probably one of the best events that we ever did is just over to the side. It was more of an awareness campaign for the organization. But we actually took over World Pride in 2019. So just kind of a little shout out there.
Cool. So a little bit about me. I'm really active in the music scene in Memphis. I'm currently the board chair of Opera Memphis, making sure that opera and classic music stays alive and well in our communities. I started my career as a change agent, and I've been through all the transformations: digital, innovative, data, all, product, all the things. So currently I'm at ALSAC. I've been there for about 14 years. The current title is Senior Director of IT Delivery Operations, which is sort of the typical title of the collecting of all the horizontals. So Project Management Office, Training Office, Service Management, Oversight Operations, all of those things. So a little bit about where we work, right? So we have the wonderful fortune of working for the mission of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. It opened its doors, in case you didn't know, in 1962. At that time, the survival rate for pediatric childhood cancer was 20%. So that means only 1 out of 5 children at that time survived in the United States a diagnosis of pediatric cancer. In 60 years, we just celebrated about our 60th anniversary, actually, about 2 weeks ago. We have flipped that. It's now 80% survival rate in the United States. So now 4 out of 5 children survive pediatric childhood cancer in this country. Unfortunately, for the rest of the world, it's the exact opposite. It's just like it's 1962. It's the survival rates outside of the United States are about 20%. So what that really means is that the biggest indicator on if your child survives a diagnosis of cancer is where you are currently living. So St. Jude is really taking its mission global. We've always treated patients across the entire world, but we're really starting to expand our mission to make sure that we basically bring those cure rates up to the same percentage and eventually 100% across the world. And that is only possible for where we actually work, which is ALSAC, that interesting acronym we keep throwing out there.
So founded in 1957, actually 5 years before the hospital would open its doors. The American Lebanese Syrian Associated Charities, it's a mouthful right there, is who we are. And we are solely in existence to fundraise and raise awareness for the organization. A couple things you can see on the screen. Danny's motto from day one was that no child should die in the dawn of life. So we carry that with us. Basically driving survival rates across the entire world. And then most recently have hooked up with the World Health Organization to ensure that those cancer-saving drugs actually start to make their way across the world to impact the developing nations and hopefully rise that survival rate.
Yep, and so that's what we do. And so today we're here to talk about data quality. So I didn't really come up with a really good transition there for that.
Data.
But the agenda. So we're going to really talk about the start and the history of the last kind of 5-ish years of our data quality and data governance journey. And then Phillip is going to dive into a part of that, which we called the struggle, which really sowed the seeds for what we're working through now, and then really the future and how we're using that to pivot into a great success story. So that's what we'll do. So I get to start with the history because, like I said, we've talked a little bit before. I've been there about 14, 15 years, and you're at 8 years, right?
About 8 years, yeah.
So long time ALSAC people. All right, so we're going to go way back to the 2016. And in 2016, we had a data governance group that was running amok. So I should pause and say that if your data governance and data quality journey at your organization has full buy-in and everyone's aligned and you're doing great, then you're gonna be really bored in this presentation. But if you are struggling, and maybe there is a data governance group that is trying to be a little crazy, then we have some solutions for you. That was a good sales pitch.
It's an amazing sales pitch,
Right,
actually.
if anybody wants to hire me to sell your product, that's all I got. But anyway, so why were they running amok? Basically, at that point, they were really tied to a specific CRM. They were trying to define rules that even were using like specific CRM field names and really trying to push people into an extremely narrow way. They were also doing boil the ocean projects. So I think there was like 6 projects they were submitted where like, we need $2 million to map every data field in the entire organization and where that data field goes to every other data field in the organization. And will only take us 4 years to do it and give us $2 million. And we were like, what? We have things to do. We have to raise money. We don't just, that's not a worthwhile project. And so they kept, trying to take these huge boil the ocean type efforts and setting rules in the ivory tower, and I think we all do that. And then the last one I really want to point out is they had this really black and white mindset about data quality. In their mind, data was either right or all bad. It was either right or bad, right? And so we were getting requests from like, this record in 1996 is missing the zip +4. And we're like, who cares? It's from 1996. That donor is no longer on file. They're no longer giving. We don't care about that. Yeah, if you want some address quality from donors from the last 6 months, like let's talk. But this one record from 1996, they're not parable. But they really tried to approach every single data quality problem as, oh my God, something is wrong, and therefore it must be terrible. So everybody basically stopped listening to them. And we were included. So IT and the technology area sort of went alone. We sort of were like, oh, that's great, data governance team. Keep submitting those $2 million projects that are not going to ever get approved. And so we were going through at that point a product transformation, agile transformation, insert all those fun buzzwords there. And so we decided to really tie our data to that product definition and product mindset. And so we define what we really call our product data domains, right? So you can see a few of those on the slide above, right? Orders or donations or constituents or donors, right? And we had a product team that really kind of owned the technology and the features that really set on top of that data domain. So it worked really well for us to help us define those product. We also, I said we went alone, but we didn't run away completely. We established business partner relationships, called them our business data domain owners, right? So we didn't have any words like data stewards or anything like that, because once again, we were trying to move away from them a little bit at that time. And we actually went through our first data quality effort. It was like real basic manual, but we did have our product owners, as one of their first efforts, define what were the key business processes that their product stack needed to do, and therefore what were the key data elements that made sure those processes were successful, and then define some quality rules, which resulted in a big long SQL statement that we ran once a month and put the results in a spreadsheet, right? So yeah, you can judge that, but honestly, it's 2018. I thought we were doing pretty well, right? And so over every month, we track those data quality results. And once again, as we kind of are data people here, right? Visibility basically encourages good behavior, right? So if you can provide good visibility, you don't have to tell people to start raising their data quality. And yeah, the query was weird and kind of crappy, but by providing that in a spreadsheet and just sort of tracking that over time, it really started encouraging people to define more key data elements or to improve their quality rules or say, hey, my quality is at 80% and I'm like the master data management team. I'm a little embarrassed about that. What should I do to encourage that? And so from there, it's sort of like the seeds were sown. And over the next couple of years, last 2 years, we really have started seeing the fruits of that labor. Another transformation, API transformation, right? It's all about transformations these days. And we hired a vendor to help us, kind of work through our productized APIs. And we actually handed them our list of product data domains. And they said, yeah, these should be your APIs. And we were like, well, do we get money back for that then? Because we just paid you to come up with them. And they were like, well, here's a credit. But it really worked really well. So once again, this data productized view really synced with our API view really, really well and continued to feed itself in really a nice kind of cycle. At that time, data governance kind of went through a refresh. And I'm proud to say, and some of them are virtually here, and I'm not being paid to say this, we got a new data governance team, and they are awesome, right? You kind of around this conference are talking about like more modern data governance practices, more adaptable governance. They really took that to heart and really became great partners with us, which was great. Our data domain owners really became data stewards under the kind of direction of that new data governance team, and it really started to kick off with a lot more people involved. With more people comes, though, we need to decide who's doing what. And before we can decide on, like I always say, before we can decide on the path, we need to actually create the map. At that point, like we don't even know what each person or what group should be doing because we don't even have a common language to start pointing people to that. And I think there's earlier in this room, actually, there was a little moment where someone made a joke about using the word domains like 7 different times in 7 different ways. And we were like, well, we need new words because we just use the word domain for everything. And so how do we start adding some definition and articulation around that? So we did. So I'm going to run through some of the definitions that we came up with. You're going to be like, yep, these are pretty industry standard, but kind of walk through them. So the first thing is what were the domain types, right? And so, we Googled, we Gartnered, and we basically said, okay, so operational data domains, that's what we've been working on, right? These product domains really are on the operational level, these sort of master system of records. And IT, that's where we started anyway. That makes perfect sense, right? We have functional domains, right? That's more of the business process area, fit for purpose kind of things. And then analytic domains, right? So yeah, everybody, that's good, makes sense. We read some papers. We were like, yeah, okay, we feel good about that. I'm not underselling it. It was about that conversation. We were like, yeah, this is smart. We should steal this from the industry. The next thing we wanted was really a hierarchy where, okay, well, what is an asset? What is a field? What is a this? What is a that? So we basically created a 3-level hierarchy, right? The top level is a domain, right? And once again, we have the 3 different types, analytic, functional, or operational. We have data sets, right? So that's basically could be a table view if you're thinking about database time, but it also could just be, a set of different data elements being pulled together for some analytical purpose or some other purpose. So just picture whatever data model you want, and the purpose of that definition is to be agnostic of database or data model type. And then we had key data elements, which really the main thing we wanted to be clear about that was it does not mean a field in a database. It actually could be 4 fields in a database, or it could be on a report, it could be 5 pieces of data that are actually being pulled and used together as a single thought or a single thing. So that was a clear part of the definition. You'd think that something like that wouldn't really matter, but it does. When you start talking about like first name, last name, organization name, middle name, initial, like are those different data elements? Are they fields? Are they this? And so we define, hey, we put that together as an element, even though there might be stored or used differently in different systems. And the last thing, well, the second to last thing is that, for anybody who's been in data or on the technology side, right, foreign key relationships make perfect sense. But we had to have some answer to the previous data governance obsession with trying to track quality through everything, right? So they wanted to apply, let's just take an address. They wanted to apply an address quality rule, not only where the address is now, but if the address moves from here to there, 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 they wanted to apply the quality rule in every single place, which eventually makes sense. I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, but they wanted to do it all at once, all at one big, huge, once again, 5-year project. And so we said, well, no, let's just apply it in the single place, and then we'll use just, primary and foreign key relationships to, basically apply the standardization rules in the right place. Once again, all these definitions cut out scope, right? So once again, we're taking that 4-year project, and we were able to slice it up into a lot more smaller little incremental steps to get value. And then it all comes together, right? So once again, not life-changing, but we're excited about it. And how does this all work together, right? So let's take an analytic domain of audience, right? So other people might have I think one that they used today was customer, right? So we use audience, which is a similar type of view, right? With the data being pulled together from an analytic perspective about our audiences that we're reaching. And that comes up, one of the main data sources of that is donations or gifts, you know. So if anybody's ever donated, thank you. And that is a combination of operational data domains, right? So if you basically process a gift, if someone gives a gift, then that is really a combination or a sentence that we can then apply to the two domains, right? Process a gift, a person gave a gift, a constituent is a person, a gift is a donation, blah, blah, data sets, key data elements, and it all kind of pulls together into a conceptual lineage. And so map complete. With that, we were able to then start doing RACEs and roles and responsibilities. Hey, data governance, why don't you focus here? We'll focus here. Let's meet once a week to kind of connect together and really start pulling these things together and really start making great progress. Yes. So just some key takeaways. Mindsets matter. You know, the data governance team before, their challenges weren't their approach. They weren't wrong about things, but their mindset of just be black and white, or I always like to say, it's either correct or it's wrong, right? There's nothing in the middle. There's no sort of gray area or this idea of data quality continuing to improve over time. We also recommend aligning on concepts and definitions. Definitions are very important, but don't obsess. Sometimes a draft that is used consistently is all you need, right? I think there's some drafts that were in draft form for 3.5 years. The document still said draft on it for 3.5 years, but everybody just knew that we were going to use it consistently, and when we came up with something better, we would change the draft. And then I think finally a few of them we were like, okay, we have something better, let's replace it. And other things were like, well, it's been the draft for 4 years, so we might as well make it the final definition. And we did. Play nice. Once again, we're all about collaboration, but sometimes you do have to go alone. Right? You just have to kind of go off on the side and see if you can make progress in a smaller, either vertical slice or slightly less collaborative or more isolated way. And then, of course, once again, you can pivot that and make larger progress from that. And then, like I said, finally, drafts are powerful. If you find a group of people are talking about something over and over and over in a room, just cut through that by drafting something, let people pick apart something actually on paper, and then say, this is a draft, we're moving forward. And you'll see that throughout the struggle.
The struggle. Cool.
You can go over there, because I'm going to come over here.
You're going to come over here?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to start you guys off with just kind of a simple question. So if you've got the Whova app out, or honestly, if you're here in the room, you want to shout it out. We just kind of wanted to start off with a simple question that continuously pops up, not only in our organization, but I'm pretty sure in everybody else's as well. So what do you mean by data quality? Those are two really loaded words in that statement. So we're going to continue to press on, but just kind of let that chew in the back of your head. Like I said, throw it into the chat section. Definitely am going to be encouraged to take a look at it once we get done.
Yeah, well, actually, does anybody want to throw one out? I saw 3 faces.
Faces, I like faces.
I saw faces, but no one opening their mouth yet. You want to throw out what you mean by data quality? When someone says, hey, let's work on data quality.
Make sure the data is fit for purpose.
Okay.
Okay.
All the data, fit for purpose.
No, the data that you're using to build something, to build an insight or an automation of things.
Okay.
Make sure your critical data is fit for purpose, accurate, current, fulfills what's supposed to be fulfilling.
Okay.
Cool. 2 good things right there.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a look and see where we're going. So to kind of jump us off with the struggle, we really wanted to kind of start with the 3 kind of states of data, if you will, at rest, in transit, and in use. And really for our discussion through the struggle, we're going to focus on the first 2, at rest and in transit. So if we overlay that with ALSAC, this is really what it looks like. At rest, you've got our operational domains, which Daniel kind of alluded to in the beginning. We've also got the analytical domains that are hanging out there as well. And then in transit, you see we've got our business processes that are constantly coming, going, they're changing, they're evolving. But then we've also got this idea of our analytical lineage hanging out as well. So keep this in the back of your head. We're going to kind of build on it as we go. But you may be asking the exact same question I asked when Daniel asked me to take over the data quality project. And that's literally, where do we start? And my face was very similar to that one as well. So in order for us to get started, really we took a minute to just start to determine things. Before we asked any people to join a project, before we even started to scope out a process, before we even decided to go a tool kind of mindset, we wanted to kind of identify a couple of things. So the 4 things you see on the screen, scope, complexity, authority, and burning platform, were really the things that we asked ourselves, how do these intersect with our data at rest and data at motion? And then obviously from that, the next question was, where do we start in this journey? So we take those 4, we overlay them with the kind of business processes, domains, lineage, and analytical piece. And this is really kind of where we mapped out to be. You can see under business processes, the complexity that Daniel alluded to, burning the ocean, wanting to map all of the business processes. Honestly, we would probably still be doing this today if we had gone that route. So like it was mentioned, probably not the smartest route to go. But in laying this out, what we figured out was, because we're in IT and we're trying to kind of keep this a little contained to get going, this is kind of where we wanted to start. We saw that the scope was IT focused when it came to the operational domains, and that we had the authority. They already lived within IT. Perfect place to start. The next thing that we wanted to do was go ahead and start assembling that crew. We kind of knew which path we were going. We knew that we needed a wide variety of talent, and so we went looking for our Justice League. Justice League for us consisted of a variety of IT members, but then again, we also decided to bring in data governance. We needed that collaboration. We also decided to bring in the business lead stewards at a certain point because we needed the input and we needed the buy-in for certain metrics and deliverables from the business in order to back this into their calls. And then finally, what we decided to do was determine a game plan. Can't really go anywhere. We've got a group of kids that are, on a soccer field chasing a ball without a process is kind of the map we were going down. So we decided to put a game plan into action. Where did we start with our game plan? So here's where we started. So because we have scope, because we have authority, again, we decided to start with those operational domains. We're going to pull those out from a couple of years ago, kind of dust off the SQL queries that we've been running, kind of dust off the dust from the kind of the ideas and the data elements, and we're going to kind of define them. So here's our game plan. I broke it down into 4 spokes for us. Really, the top one is kind of the thing that keeps the wheel going, and it's all about alignment, education, and reporting. Constant alignment across the organization about what we're doing, constant education about data quality as a journey as a whole. And then really we started to focus in on the second one, standards and guidelines. For us, it was important to create those standards, to create those guidelines that really would help to guide the monitoring of the data domains, as well as the data elements as we continue to stand them up. Next, we wanted to put a path for improvement in. So we know that we're going to start scanning things. We know we're going to start identifying issues. We need a logical path in order to start making improvements. It's one thing to kind of see that there's an issue. It's a second thing to kind of start to make improvements towards that. So that was the 3rd tier of our plan. And then finally, we wanted to go ahead and back this into incidences. We know if we're running data quality checks, we're going to have some things that are going to be popping off at the middle of the night or occasionally, so we needed a way to deal with them. We could stand up another process, or we could back it into an existing one.
And one thing that's really critical about the difference between 3 and 4 is that there's a difference between something that broke and now is impacting data quality, and just data that you want to improve over time, or a piece of data that historically hasn't been important, but now has become important for some other new thing. So we definitely group those into 2 sort of approaches, one being more like an enhancement request or a product request in the kind of category of number 3, and then something has broken and we actually need to respond quickly to resolve and correct that data as an incident number 4.
So to kind of give a little bit more of a definition around that. So for each of the 4, I kind of alluded to it a second ago, but it's consistent awareness around what data quality is. It's standardized reporting of those key data elements across all of our products. It's prioritization to complete work in order to mitigate issues and fix gaps. And then finally, it's putting in place the monitoring and ultimately the idea to decrease the amount of severity tickets that we have coming from potential issues. So where are we? So we know where we started and where we wanted to go. We figured out our people, whether willing or voluntold, and we defined a process, which then led everybody to the fun part, which was figuring out how we're actually going to move this forward. So what we did, honestly, I'm not going to read the screen. It looks like an RFP. We did not do a full RFP process because we kind of have already got something going and we just wanted to build upon it. So this literally is my brain just scattered. We made a list. We Googled things. We literally looked at Gardner. He's laughing because he knows it is exactly true. I asked friends that, were kind of dealing with the same thing. How do we move forward with this? We took the 30,000 level, high level kind of review of what we knew we needed. InfoSec said we need to have SSO ideally. We need to back this into Okta. We want integrations we knew from immediately. So with those kind of high level requirements, we built a list and then we reduced the list. What we did is we then tightened in on our requirements. We knew that we needed some visualization. We wanted, again, for security and InfoSec, we wanted something easy for them. We wanted really on the engineering side an ease of use, which then, and I put the 15 right there. It actually came out to about a list of 15 or so features that we defined explicitly that we wanted, which then reduced our list, which then allowed us to basically make a move and decide whether we wanted to buy or build. So if you haven't figured out why we're here yet, we decided to buy. So SOTA is the tool that we actually have been implementing to kind of take us on this journey. So if you bake it all, you kind of know that mixing all the ingredients together is kind of an important thing. And so for us to be successful, that's exactly what we did. We took our 1.0 groundwork, which were those original data domains, the standards and guidelines from data governance, that first quality effort of those manual scans that we put into a spreadsheet and then put on SharePoint. We took our program that we developed, which was our people, our processes, and our tools. We applied a better understanding over the years of our databases and how they are constructed and what lives and where. And then finally, we added that to the tool. Having all of those allowed us to be more informed about the tool and how we use it, which allowed us to start piecing the puzzle together as a holistic solution. Cool. So back to this graph right here. So I told you we'd come back to it real quick. So let's take a look again at our data at rest. So for us, again, domains are where we started on the operational side. We brought SOTA into the picture, and this is really what it looks like. So we've been applying SOTA tests on our operational domains with the ultimate goal of moving that information eventually into Elation. Elation being that landing spot for our entire enterprise so that they can consume this exact same information. Again, here's another view of it right here. So we started with those manual scans, just kind of doing what it is that we knew how to do. Moving that into SOTA to get a better idea, get some better monitoring, get some really cool graphics around it. Thank you guys. And then ultimately moving that into Elation so that, again, the entire enterprise can start to see and consume this information on the domain level. And there's our state of happiness. It's where we like to be. So a couple of takeaways, just similar to Daniel's, it's all about the process. Determine the scope, figure out a process, figure out who your people are, organize your thoughts in a semi-organized way. If they're scattered, it's okay. It's all going to equal out in the end. And then probably the two at the bottom are the most important to me. It's ideate and go. If you wait to have all your ducks in a row, you're probably going to still be standing there. So gather enough that you feel comfortable and just make a stab at it. You're going to learn something and you're going to be informed for that second go around, so let's just go for it. And then finally, alignment across the organization is beyond critical to getting things done. I don't know if there's a mountain or a rooftop tall enough that I can shout that from, but alignment is definitely key in this kind of situation.
All right, so as we move to the future, what's next, right? So.
Yeah, you get it back.
Okay, appreciate it. So, we talked a lot about sort of moving into just a technology-centric view. But once again, that was never the long-term intent. So we definitely we are repivoting back to now more of a business focus, right? And once again, in order to build that, we want it to really start moving up the pyramid. So you'll see that the things we're working on is a transition to outcomes with those data quality. So yes, we talked about someone, talked about completeness and accuracy and timeliness and things like that, and wanting to really translate those into business outcomes so that we can understand how those things impact what our business partners need and ultimately how that impacts the organization as a whole. We also want to expand the quality focus, right? Operational data domains and just data at rest across our master systems is not where we want to stop. Right? It's a great starting point because it is sort of a moment that is simple but we have a long way to go. I lost the ability to talk when you were talking. The next thing is, once again, we want to start improving the trust of the organization in the data. It's something I know that this conference has talked about a lot. In order to do that, we want to improve our issue management so that when something does go bump in the night, we can fix it and be very clear and transparent about it. and then make sure that our engagement with the stewards continues. And then finally, analytics ready, right? So these are, once again, topics that we've talked about a lot. Lineage is very important. You know, if we just stayed at the operational level doing operational data quality checks, we would probably be there for the rest of our lives, right? Because there's just a never-ending list of data at the operational level. How do we know what data is actually truly important, right? Right now we're using sort of a product model, and we're thinking with our product managers and product owners what key business processes are important. But what we're wanting to do now is actually say, okay, at the analytic level, what are the things that our executives look at every day? What are the things that drive business decisions? And then what is the lineage from there through the hierarchy that basically we need to make to increase in priority for the quality. And the last thing is certifications, once again a hot topic, and pulling all that together. So right now we feel that we've moved our risk level down in quality to a medium, right? Reliability, observability, we're thinking is still kind of pretty higher risk in our organization, and we will of course want to move those to low. There you go, graphics. I can do that one more time. Here to here, that's where we're trying to go. And so just to dive in a little bit into the future state work that we're currently focused on, back to Phillip.
Cool. So yeah, so the first one is quality. So, you know, right now it's looking at the dimensions that we run against our data elements and data sets. For us, there's a whole list of them on the screen. Really, the first three are the most important. Really, actually, I would say the first four. So completeness, uniqueness, accuracy, and validity. And as we continue to reshift back into a business focus, you know, those dimensions become more like accuracy over speed, complexity and not volume of it. Things that are important to our business more so than IT. And the way that we're going to get there is through transparency, which is just managing the assets, managing that relationship with our business and understanding what it is that they need. Back to this fun graph again. So there's soda in our test. So this is kind of what we're thinking. On the analytical domains, also popping soda test up and sending them into the application. We're thinking in terms of, you know, the lineage, things like airflow or great expectations could be really good and complementary there. Again, being sent up to soda. And then finally, over on the business process side, we're still kind of conceptualizing this. This will be the long-term gain for us. You know, Daniel, in a couple of earlier slides, really referenced, you know, the audience and processing of GIF, where it starts to bring in multiple domains. So we're starting to conceptualize, you know, how do we kind of start to cobble those together and then send them up to soda as well. Ultimately, sending all of that information again into Elation for the entire enterprise to consume.
Which creates a really interesting question about just business process and business logic, right? Where data quality and business logic cross or don't cross, which I think goes to our next question.
It does. Oh, it's my question.
That was my segue for you. You like it?
Yeah, I do. So if the system is down and not processing, is it a data quality issue or is data quality a symptom of the issue? Again, I don't know about y'all's organization, this comes up quite frequently when it comes to ours. So I encourage you either shout it out here in the room or if you're in the chat in the Whova app, feel free to throw in your comment right there.
In your organization, how do you view that? Silence. There you go.
No, I was waiting for somebody to turn it back around on us. Well, let's take a look at it. So for us, really, that question can go a couple of different ways. And one of the ways that we're tackling that question when it comes up is by identifying the issue as best that we can. And so when we look at reliability, really the trust in the data, it falls into three kind of bucket items for us. It's triage and resolution. It's, again, applying existing operational processes. And then it's the engagement metrics around it. For the first one, it's creating some kind of shared ownership between the data lead stewards and the BI partners in IT to most accurately understand the issues. Going back to that question, is it a data quality issue if the system stopped processing, or is data quality simply a symptom of what has happened? It's applying those existing processes. So we mentioned the IR process, our incident response process. It's layering that into this so that we can take something from triage into the root cause, into the permanent corrective action, and ultimately close it out. We want to get away from band-aiding, you know, a problem, throwing, you know, a slap on it, and then hoping that that it goes away, but actually getting to the root of it. And then finally, like any good business, it's applying engagement metrics. So we've got 4 on the screen. You can see it's things like usage and uptime, usability, and incidences. We really want to start to better understand where we lie with all of those in terms of our reliability.
And with that, we currently have brokered a 3-tier, this is how we handle it, a 3-tiered agreement where there is either a data quality issue, which means that on the analytic domain specifically, there was something that has occurred that is predominantly an analytic problem, and that is owned by our data governance and our data quality team. There is a other system issue that has a severe data quality symptom or consequence, which is owned by the typical ops or application or NOC. And but the data quality team is a top stakeholder invested interest. And then the third category is where they have trusted us because of our transparency, where it is just an application NOC, operational owned thing, but the data team gets basically a report and a dashboard that they can see, oh, this went bump in the night, it's corrected, or it will be corrected in the SLA, and it sort of keeps them out of it, or allows them to sort of see the problem but not have to be engaged or track it down. So that's the answer, is that right now we have a 3-tiered brokered agreement. We hope, once again, with trust and continuing to provide the transparency, that simplifies a little bit, and so that an incident is treated more just as a typical incident and not have this special data flavor, multi-pronged attack pattern thing, as those incidents sometimes can happen in organizations. And kind of in summary, right, one of the buzzwords I put in the fun poll was observability, right? We really want to continue to move from reactive to proactive. Kind of the main new terms that I'm introducing here is this idea of assets, right? So how do we get from this hierarchy and this conceptual stuff? If you remember in all my definitions, I never really used the term asset, right? And so how do we start really applying, once again, from that business value perspective, how do we start thinking of these things as value and assets? And then how does that really start to mature the approach that we've taken across the board? So, kind of final summary, don't boil the ocean. Iterative is good. Whenever possible, we encourage you to apply your natural assets from the organization, your operational assets, your operational definitions. Don't try to go it alone in your data quality, right? There's a lot of either software engineering expertise and power that you can leverage, or maybe your organization has a stronger procurement side, or maybe your organization has a stronger business analyst side. So wherever you're really, really strong and have sort of an institutional culture, really we recommend leveraging that and starting there. And then on the observability, as you kind of continue to pivot towards value and business partners, we just really think about focus what matters and bite off basically chunks that make sense to make progress.
Yep, and then on the program standpoint, really it's about dancing, which I don't think we'll ever get away from that acronym now.
No.
It's about definition, so continuously define what it is that you're scoping out and what you're working on. It's continuously building awareness. That is part of our process, is to ensure that people in the organization, not only just in IT, are understanding of what data quality is. It's continual negotiation with the different stakeholders, the data governance team, the business lead stewards, in order to articulate what's going on, where you need to go, and what you want to work on. Which really leads into the collaboration. It's, one person can't do this, one team can't do this. You may be able to do it alone by a little while, but ultimately it takes a larger group in order to be successful. And then finally, it's about continuous education in this area. As data changes, the need for people to be updated and understanding goes along with that. So it's just a constant education amongst the teams. And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
No, that's it.
Yeah. And of course, just as we begun, you are in the room with 2 fundraisers. So we also end with as we begin, which is if you do want to get involved with St. Jude, you can go to stjude.org and kind of engage with our great mission. We would love to have you join us.
Yes.
Yeah, any questions?
We have one question from the virtual audience. Good question. How did you get engagement from the business to improve data quality?
Yeah, so I would say that historically, when we sort of went around the data governance group, we used our product owners to have that relationship, right? So we utilized the existing product owner kind of stakeholder business customer relationships, and we just brought this up as just another thing to talk about as part of, what new features do you want? What new data would help you, right? So we tried to group it into the same conversation. And then on the quality side, right, oh, well, what data quality is really critical for this feature or that feature? So that was the existing way we engaged. And then once again, as data governance sort of refreshed and became really great partners, we kind of then utilized what they rolled out was called, a people framework, right? So they have a council, a working group. I think there's 4 different sort of, types of councils and groups of stewards and leaders. And so we basically pivoted from that more product owner stakeholder relationship to the people framework through the data governance relationship.
I have a question on your certification. Can you elaborate on what exactly did you do, what results you got, how did that work?
Yeah, so the current certification is nascent, let's just say that. It's very new, and we're trying to define it as experimental, I'm not going to remember the current definition, so experimental, operational, integrated, and then certified. Right, so I know platinum, gold, people use colors and things like that. We wanted to use terms that made it more clear on what the data's current status or intention was, right? So if it has an experimental status, right, that just, you kind of instantly know that means it's probably thrown away, it's just thrown into an S3 bucket somewhere, or something like that. And if someone's reporting out of an experimental data set, leaders kind of know just by that one word what that means. And so then once again, integrated is typically data warehousing or, some type of being rolled into a larger domain. And then once again, certified means now this is a enterprise measure that has a full definition, fully articulated, all the councils have agreed, and this is, when this word is used, everybody knows exactly what goes into that.
Thanks. Thank you for this. I'm curious, something I've experienced, I'm wondering if you all did too. When you started putting data on Elation into the catalog, when there was potentially some low quality data that probably got on there, did you notice improvements when it was on the catalog and visible that people began improving the data quality?
We hope so. I would say we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
Or it's just starting, maybe. I think with any data catalog, there's I'm not going to be able to remember the phrase, but kind of a critical mass, right? And I think we've just hit the critical mass. But what's interesting is what was the quality of the data that went into it to then get you to the critical mass? For then people to realize, oh, there's critical mass, I should look at this. I disagree with 30% of it. So I hope that sort of self-feeding cycle is kicking off now. Yeah. But I will say, I would probably 9 months ago, the data stewards went from what am I supposed to do to really engaging in that, which I think is really good. And most of that's just visibility, just putting it out there over and over. Here's the current incident level. Here's the current quality measures. Your data domain is at 80% while everybody else is at 87%. Meeting standards. That's sad for you. You should potentially do something about that. We're Southern, so shame works.
So what is the division of responsibility between your team now and the data governance team now that's working and effective?
That's interesting. What do we say? That we're trying to get the child off to kindergarten and then we're going to send them off into school. So what's very interesting is we do have a data governance team right now that is between FP&A, IT, and our business partners. We have actually a data integrity group that's part of the data analytics, BI sort of back-end engineering area. And then we're just sitting over on the side, right? So I think once the program is off and running, we're going to hand it off to those people and hopefully awesome things continue to happen.
Yes, my goal is to eventually graduate my programs to other people, so it's their responsibility.
It's a good job.
Yeah.
And then what do you do?
There's a whole list.
There's a list.
There's a whole list.
Exactly. If you constantly try to work yourself out of a job, you'll always have a job. It's,
I like that. Any other questions? Let's see if we have any on more.
yeah, I can make up more quotes as I go. You quoted yourself up there, I noticed that.
I slid that in.
Yes.
I have more of a sort of background business question. Is any of the data that you talked about here regulated?
It's a really good question. So we have to be PCI compliant, right? We process a lot of credit card data. Thank you, donors. So that's regulated through that side of the house. We have definitely PII responsibilities, security responsibilities. We do not have HIPAA responsibilities. So once again, because
That's where I was getting to, right? Because I think things become really interesting once it's heavily regulated.
Yeah.
Which you haven't touched.
No, luckily. So we do have, like I said, we do have a small environment that is necessary for HIPAA requirements just because of our relationship with the hospital. We are considered a HIPAA, and I don't remember the right word, I think ancillary, but there's a specific word in the regulation, HIPAA group. So we have some requirements in that area. And then the Colorado Privacy Act is the first one that officially hits us as a nonprofit.
Question from Huva. How do you promote data quality and data management culture to a business that cares more about the outcomes than what happens behind the scenes as long as they can do what they need? Did that make sense?
Are they wrong then? What's interesting is, we are a fast-paced, speed-to-market, fun, e-commerce is probably the closest, if you're like, what is it like at a nonprofit raising money? Honestly, e-commerce and retail and is about the most similar, right? So if there's a fad on TikTok, we need to be there, right? So if that's an opportunity to raise money for the mission and, and there's a charity focused, something cool, we have to rush to get there. And so, sometimes data quality is not at the forefront of that conversation. And so, but is that necessarily bad? And so this is why I'm not the chief data officer. Because, in that case, I would say, well, the business value and the business objectives is to do those things. Now, once again, the important questions are which is, once this really cool thing is over, what are you going to want to do next? What from the results of this, what do you then want to do? What other outcomes or value are you going to then want? And that, I think, is how you get them to care about the data quality of the situation. But it could be that they don't care too much about a lot of it. Once again, just knowing what the trail is out of the back. Do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, what you said.
Okay.
No, exactly.
There you go.
Anything else?
And is it allowed to say that sometimes data quality is not the most important thing in a data quality conversation? Is that okay? Okay. Because I said it.
Yeah, we know our place. Well, thank you so much. Very entertaining, very informative, most of all. So give them a round of applause. And
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.